Oh, that sounds terrible. Change over to my Strat. That one's a little out of tune. Hey, Tom. Hey everybody, how are you? Where are you? Where are you coming from? Where are you going? How's your week been? How many of you got vaccinated this week? I had my first dose last week, and yeah, I didn't have anything. I didn't have any issues, but that's not for everybody. Some people I know got it, got the vaccine, and then felt pretty rough, pretty terrible. Can't be super loud because my boy's taking a late nap. Gary in Rochester. I'm gonna turn this mic down. Intro. Maybe I should record something. Oh. There's an intro. Maybe I should record something at some point. But not today. Too much going on. Hope everybody's doing well. It's been a really fun week around here. I have been so busy. The last 3 weeks, I've just been working like a maniac. Really fun stuff coming. Really exciting stuff. The garage renovation has just taken a whole life of its own. And tomorrow, it will effectively be done. If you watch Essential Craftsman, I've done a similar thing, which I love Essential Craftsman. It's one of my favorite YouTube channels. And so what they've done is they're building a spec house, and we're like 120 episodes or something into it. I love that channel. And oh, Spike. Okay, I'll jump out. I'll explain that in a second. But Essential Craftsman, they're building this spec house. It's amazing, but they're trying to capture a really complicated, thorough process and explain some details. So I'm taking some inspiration from that. And so we've done, I think there's one more episode in the hopper, the 6th episode, and then I think the 7th is the one that will be crazy. It'll be a ton, because it got to where there's so much footage, there's so much stuff that's going on. And there are plenty of times that I was not helpful. Like as I'm making the videos, I'm just holding it all in my head, trying to figure out when one will start, when one will end. So there are a couple times that I did talking bits where I'm just wrong. Where I'm like, hey, this is the end of the video. Thanks for watching. I'm Jeremy. And it's clearly like I end up, like it's not the end. Like there's still more drywall work to do. There's still more mudding and taping and sanding and then painting. But I will show you guys a picture here in a second. Russell in Cape Town, South Africa. All right, man. Russell, good dude. Glad you're here. And yeah, I've been talking to what's his name with the ukuleles, and we're gonna try and get one here soon. So should work out. That'll be really fun, and hopefully get some cool ukes. So there's this guy in South Africa that makes these ukuleles that are just amazing. They look like Telecasters. They look like Jazzmasters. They look like old like ES350s. Really cool, really unusual. Very cool stuff. Orlando, Rochester, Nantucket, Syracuse. Okay, Spike, which guitar? You may have been talking about this one. So this is my American Professional 2 Stratocaster. This came out last year. It's a 2020. Pretty straightforward Strat. The only real difference is it has a push-push. So it has this ability when you're in the bridge position, you're able to add the neck pickup. So you get kind of a telly, out-of-phase tone. And yeah, Spike. So yeah, talking about yeah, American Pro 2. See if I can get it to focus. Yeah, super cool. Look at that shallow depth of field. F1.4, big boys. So incredibly cool guitar. I was part of the launch for Fender for this guitar, and at the time, the plan was not for me to keep it. I was supposed to just do a video on it, and they would pay me, $500. And so they liked the video, and they were super kind, and they just let me keep the guitar, and I love it. I play it all the freaking time. As someone that it captures so much of the things Strats should do in a way that is not dorky or lame. For me, Strats just got real lame for a long time. 80s, 90s, early 2000s. I just think they lost until the reissues really took off and they started really bringing back the style and the way they would do them in the 60s. Anyway, super cool. Smart. What else? Paul in Michigan. Ukuleles. Oh, yeah, Tom. I will send you the link on this, Tom. You are going to be into them. And so, anyway. The other guitar I was playing here at the beginning, but it's a little out of tune, and I don't have a tuner handy because I was running and gunning trying to get the live show together in time. So this is the Guild BT258. This is the deluxe version. So there are 8 strings on that guy. And so this is a baritone, and it's an 8-string. So it has octaves here in the middle. But this thing sounds like a cannon. It's like down a fifth. So when you play a G shape, you're actually playing a D. Anyway, super cool guitar. I've played this one a ton. I hope. So I'm borrowing that from Guild. I hope they'll let me keep it. Or at least let me buy it. So, very cool guitars. That's kind of the basic update. I'll show you the garage here. Let me see. You get out of there. You come over here. And I lean over this way. And so this is the garage as it sits today. I took that picture yesterday afternoon. It is painted. It is finished. There's trim. Everything is caulked. There are a couple things that are left to do, but it's basically generally done. It is super cool. Yeah. So I'm super excited about this thing. There are a gajillion questions. There are a ton of questions that I keep getting asked about this that I will do like an FAQ video on this where I'll really kind of dig into security and how am I going to keep water out of it and how am I going to do noise insulation and what have we done so far. And so I've been overwhelmed by the process of it's been a great exercise as far as filming and making videos every day, but I'm also pretty worn out from 2 weeks of making videos every day. And I know my channel is about guitars, and so usually when I step too far outside of my lane, YouTube just says, nope, we're not going to show people that. So, like that whole series, I mean, all those videos are way lower view counts than I normally get. But to me, I'm like, I don't care, because it's a cool video that I personally have looked for, and I know that a lot of people are trying to figure out how to work from home and turn spaces into workspaces. So anyway, hopefully that connects with people, resonates with people. So anyway, I chose the yellow because it's just awesome. Let's be honest. I didn't want it to look too much. I wanted no one walking by to say, that looks like a cool space with a bunch of cool stuff in it, which is also why I didn't put windows in it. That's one of the reasons. The other reason for windows is that I want to be able to totally control light. Like, I'm in a basement now, and I've kind of gotten spoiled. Like, there are a couple of windows over here, but they don't ever really affect the light. But it just makes it to where if there are no windows, I can just run in, camera's already set up, lights are already set up, turn everything on, boom, sit down in front and just record stuff, rather than my situation now, which is wait for people to be quiet or gone. Or so anyway, that's what's going on with this. It's been fun. I am stressed out, but we came in under budget, which is amazing. And so there's only a couple things I need to do to it, and I'll make more videos on that next week. Other stuff going on is that I've just had fun, cool guitars showing up. I haven't been able to buy anything in the last couple weeks. I haven't found anything that's really worth selling. I found a fake Martin yesterday, but I think the guy knows who I am because he won't respond to any of my messages. But anyway, I'll take this off. So Sam had a 2013 standard Strat with fat 50s in it. Oh man, fat 50s are awesome. I had for like a 2-week period when I was 20 or so, I had, what was it? I had a 57 reissue that was in pink paisley. It had a super bird's eye neck. It was a closet classic, and it had the fat 50s. And to me, that is still like the thing that I miss most, as far as electric guitars go. Wish I wouldn't have sold it. So anyway, Roger says that Taylor makes a 6 and 8 string baritone. They do, and they're wonderful. And they're for a different customer, and they're in a different price range. They're $2,500. They're much more expensive than this one. This one is $629, which to me is an amazing price. Now I have another guitar coming. I have another baritone coming from Walden Guitars, which I'm super excited about. I got to just have a fun, long conversation with the owner of Walden Guitars, Jonathan, and he and I just hung out and talked and just yucked it up on high-end acoustic guitars, which is a thing I love doing. So, yes, you gonna keep it? Are you gonna keep the it? I don't know what you mean, Tom. I'm gonna try to keep the it. Yeah, I'm gonna try and keep the baritone. But, I totally understand. They're back-ordered forever, and this is an artist model, so this one will probably go to another YouTuber and make some more videos. But I'm going to see what I can do. Yeah, what about fire safety? You should have a fire exit. So, that's true. There's one door. So because we just did it ourselves, we didn't have to pull permits from the city. And, I'm not that worried about, I will have a fire extinguisher in there. It's just a good idea. But that's an interesting, so there will be a Q&A question or a Q&A just on all of the guitar stuff, and the shed and the YouTube stuff in the studio. Because the next thing is once I'm done out there, so, filming will finish tomorrow, effectively. Because the air conditioner, the mini split, is getting put in. And once again, that is being sponsored by an amazing act of generosity from a great company here in Harrisonburg, Star Heating and Cooling. If you live in the valley, if you need heat, AC, if you need to service an old unit, like I've said before, there's nothing scarier. Like when we were in Louisiana, there's nothing scarier than a house that is too cold when you have little kids around and you need it to be warm. And there's nothing harder and more frustrating than when a house is way too hot and your air conditioning is out. I remember in Louisiana years ago, our air conditioner went out and it got to 91 degrees inside the house. And we had 2 little dogs, and they weren't little, they were English bulldogs. and we had to take them out, and they had to come to my office with me, and, you know, just... Anyway, so Star Heating and Cooling is donating, supporting the channel, the air conditioner, so it's a mini split. So mini splits are awesome. It will be really quiet. It'll keep the room exactly where it needs to be as far as temperature goes. I'm incredibly thankful. So thanks, Spencer. Thanks, Eric. Eric is also a dear old friend that is just an amazing musician. I've known him forever. We went to high school together. Anyway, so good. Yeah, Spike says it's a shed, just run through the walls. Not wrong. Well, there is shiplap siding on the outside, insulation, true dimensional lumber, because it was built in like 1940s. So it's big, meaty boy studs, and then we reinforced all those with new 2x4s, and then we put half-inch sheetrock on it. And so I believe in myself. I could be the Kool-Aid man. So anyway. All right, well, this week we're going to talk about negotiation. When you find a guitar that you like, when you're trying to figure it out, when you're trying to figure out how to get that deal done, how do you do it? What lines do you use? What are the best lines? What are the worst lines? So I'll share some of my own, and then along the way, and then we'll jump into ones that were sent to me through Instagram and Facebook. And yeah, so anyway, Krenar, good to see you, man. Glad you're here. All right, let's do this thing. So you're looking for guitars, you're looking for gear, you find stuff, whether it's on Facebook or LinkedIn, that's weird, whether it's on Facebook or Meetup or whatever, wherever you're going, how do you find that stuff? And then once you do, how do you actually get that stuff sold? So I'll just run through, these are some of my favorite lines that I know that I use every week and they always work. This is one that pretty much works every time. And there's two questions packed into it. Can you take X? X is usually 20% off, or just, I never pay full price. There's something broken in my brain, and it's cost me a couple deals. It cost me a Music Master last year. It's cost me a handful of guitars. There's something broken in my brain. That Gibson J15, people picked on me for, it's already such a deal, and I got 50 more bucks off of it. I don't know. That's just me. So anyway, this line I use all the time. If someone has something I want to buy, and so basically I look at it and I'm like, okay, well, how much is it worth? And I check, eBay completed listings or Reverb or the price guide or just my own kind of experience knowing how much those are worth. And from there I'll jump in and I'll say, hey, can you meet, or will you take X, and can you meet today? Because I like two things about this. I'm packing two questions in here. One is, will you take this? And then there's an assumed yes that says, there's an assumed yes, and then they also hear a promise. They hear a closed deal. They can almost hear that cash being unfolded. And so this packs them together. So this is, if you're only going to take one, I'll give you the best one first. This one is so good because it just works. People just feel the momentum of it. So, yeah. Let me change. There's a setting on this that I have to change real quick. My hotkeys, I want to make it to where I can change with a space bar instead of having to click, because that's annoying. Okay. All right, this should work now. You are the worst. Okay, I don't know why it's not working. All right. So here's another line. One of the lines I regularly use, and it's almost always true. Cameras have gotten so good. People are getting a lot better at taking pictures. And so one of the things that happens is that you show up and the guitar is not, it just isn't what it looked like or isn't what it was described as on the picture. And so basically when I'm setting up a deal, I find a thing, I use that first line, which is, would you take this amount and can you meet today? And then we get kind of the general deal locked in, and with a caveat. So the general deal, I prefer to have, and buyers are much more likely to show up if you commit to a price and then you say, hey, like there are things, it's subject to change, but I'm going to bring this much cash. And so that's one of the things that is the most helpful. So basically where we Looked at the chat, got lost, saw a squirrel over there. But so, I lost my train of thought. But yeah, so I lock in the deal and I kind of lock in the price. They feel more comfortable with the caveat of like, hey, when we get there, it's subject to condition and, I'm going to look at it really intensely. And so as long as you're okay with that. And so usually, and this trick doesn't work all the time, doesn't even work most of the time, but it does let you, there's a small window in which you get to renegotiate or just put some fine tune on the deal. And so basically with this one, the big thing is like when you just look at it, you're like, oh man, this is rougher than it looked in the pictures. And I don't jump to the next line. I just say, this is rougher in the pictures. And then I let some space come into the conversation. And almost always people say like, okay, well, where do you want to be on it? It opens up, there's like, they allow you, and that's an important part of the negotiation too, is that they open up and like they don't feel like you're taking money from them. They just be like, okay, we're adjusting the deal. And so anyway, it's really good. So yeah, this is a trick that works. Doesn't even work most of the time, works sometimes. But it is good. And it's one of the other overarching, and this is also just my personality, my style, is that honesty wins. And so I'll be really honest with people when things aren't going the way that I hope that they would go. So the next one that I have is when someone complains that my price is too low. When someone says, I'm just going to hold on to it. I'll say, I'm sure you could get more money on Reverb or on eBay, but you're going to give away 10%. You're going to wait 6 months, and then you're going to have to deal with PayPal. And then depending on your PayPal account, that's going to show up as taxable income. And so usually I am doing that to encourage them to take my cash now. Yeah. So anyway, so just by saying like, yeah, you can do that and reminding people that they do have other options, there is the ability for them to go out and to find someone else. Now with that, you also want to, I'm trying to maximize the frustration that they expect from selling it to anyone else. Yeah, that's the most helpful way to say it. Is like, hey, I'm here. This is another one I've used before, and it didn't make it into the bubbles, into the chat. It's tongue in cheek. It's a little snarky. It's a little cocky, but it reads as funny when you just point out that you're a nice guy. Like, listen, I'm a nice guy. You like me. You want to take my cash right now, and you'll have a weekend with a pocket full of cash. How is that a bad thing? Really trying to win people over with that one. And I wouldn't use that to be like, I'm a good guy. You should sell it to. You should give me a deal. I'm a good guy. That's lame. But I do think it's funny when you can point out because you're kind of crafting this narrative on how they're processing this deal. Like, this is the close to the story of this thing that they own, where it's like, because if you think about the story structure, I'm going way off of where I thought I would go in this. If you go through the story arc in their mind of buying that guitar, if there are a couple ways that the story's going, a person they loved owned that and died, and now they're selling it for them. Or a person that they used to love and got divorced from used to own that, and now it's a sore, sad thing that they don't want, and they're just trying to get cash out of it. Another story could be they bought this with the hopes and dreams of reinventing themselves as a creative person that plays music, that sings, that writes music. And so anyway, all of that, keeping in track where the story started, you're coming into like the way they want to end that. If the right end of that story is that they sell it, well then make it fun, make it enjoyable, make it memorable. So that's where I think it's funny. Like if you start telling them how this story is ending, like, hey, like, it's a Friday, it's great weather, I've got cash right now, I don't want to go home with a pocket full of cash, and you don't want to go home with this guitar because you're going to try and sell it somewhere else and you're going to lose a bunch of money. So let's just make a deal right now. And that's where you just play it in the fun way. Now, I understand there's a lot of that comes through. That's my personality and how I do it, but that's how I answer these questions, and that's the advice that I give. But I'm also well aware that I'm not don't be like me, but you can think like how I've thought, and you can say some of the things and filter all of that through who you are. So anyway, yeah, that's a good one. Like, just point out the failure that happens in the story in their life. If they don't sell to you, you're going to hang on to this thing. You're going to get beat up. You're going to meet 10 more people in parking lots like this, and they're going to chop you down lower than I'm chopping you down. Whether it's true or not. It's probably true, right? Mostly true. Okay, here's the other one. This is one when you see a price that is bonkers. Who is it? Somebody sent me one the other day. What was it? Someone sent me one the other day that was like, oh, it was all those. It was a couple pedals and a couple guitars. A couple people sent me these things with these just ridiculous prices. Like, what was the there's an Ibanez pedal. It's basically a Rat clone-ish thing that Josh got. I mean, it's a super rare. It's the most rare Ibanez pedal. I forget what it's called, but it came up the other day, and yeah, it came up, and they were asking. It went for like $1,500. You're like, this is a pedal a couple of years ago. Yes, it's rare, but a couple of years ago you could get one for a couple $100, and now it's sold for maybe it's more than that. It was like $2,500. The other one are like the Mythos Mjolnirs, the Wildwood ones. Wildwood Mjolnirs. Sheesh. But yeah, going for crazy prices. Anyway, when you see a crazy price, and if you're trying to, like, if it's a thing you really like and you'd like to own, yeah, so in Louisiana, there was a guitar that I really liked, and I really wanted to try and buy. This is 6 weeks ago or something when we were in Louisiana, and I'm there, and I see it's a 1954 Gibson J45. It's a 54 J45, and I called, and he's asking $8,500, which to me is bonkers. I'm like, why is it so high? So I called him. I actually recorded it. It never turned into a video. I asked him if I could record our phone call, and he was fine with it, but it just wasn't super helpful for y'all. And so basically, I used this. I called him just with this question in mind, which is, how did you get to this price, man? And he said, well, it's super old and they're not making any more of them. Like, that's true, but 54 is not that old. And they made a ton of them. So, like, taking a little bit of steam out of sails, wind out of his sails, steam out of. Anyway, but yeah, so it was an interesting question. So this is a question you have to use kind of cautiously. This is usually like, how did you get here? And then if you just like set yourself up as like, hey, I love these things. I know a lot about them. I've owned a couple others. I'd love to own this one. Mark it. And then you shift into like guide, teacher, friend mode and say like, hey, I will pay a real number for it, but your number's not a real number. So anyway, that's a good tool. And so another great question is, how long have you had it? Because this, in negotiation, information is leverage, is power. So, one of the best examples I have of this is actually how I bought our Excursion. So we have a 2001 Excursion. I love preposterous, giant, meaty, heavy-duty trucks. We didn't need a truck that big, but I just found such a good deal, I couldn't pass it up. And so we found this. We were looking. We had a Subaru Forester. We're looking. It wasn't great for car seats. We had another baby on the way, and so I was like, let's just find something else. And so I was poking around on cars.com, and I found a car that's about an hour away from us on the other side of the lake in New Orleans. And I'm talking to the guy, and I asked this question, and the whole deal changed. I said, how long have you had it? And he said, I've had it about 6 weeks since my dad died. It was his car, and I don't need it. I race motorcycles. And and I first led with like, hey, man, I'm very sorry. I lost my mom when I was young. I know what it's like. I'm sorry. I also know it's a real big burden to kind of take care of all the things that your parents owned and find new homes for them. Now, the thing that I heard was he hasn't owned this thing that long. It doesn't have a strong sentimental attachment to it. And he has an expensive hobby. Now, please don't hear it. That's not like a dark manipulative thing that I did there. But I just saw the cards that he showed me are I have a thing that takes a lot of money. I'm trying to move this thing quickly. So he was asking $11,500. This was a 2001 Excursion. It had 38,000 miles on it. It was so clean and so brand new looking. Kelley Blue Book was $11,500. So he really wasn't far off of real market price. But I was just like, hey man, like, and this is true. You know, we were just getting out of debt in the Dave Ramsey world. And so we were like, okay, we have $7,300. That is all the money that we have. And we don't want to borrow money anymore. We're done borrowing money ever again. And so I called him. I was like, hey man, like, here's the thing. Like, I think I offered, okay, I'm remembering the details. So I called him and said, hey, I would love to own this truck. We have another baby on the way. This would be perfect for us. I live close. I can be that. We can jump in the car right now. I've got cash. I don't have as much cash as you're asking, but I have $7,000 and I can be there in 45 minutes to an hour. And he said, oh man, well, hang on. Let me think about it. Let me check something. And I could hear him typing on a computer, and I guarantee he looked up the price of whatever thing he was trying to buy for his motorcycles. Because I heard like clack, 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 clack. He's like, can you do $7,300? And so I literally went to our kitchen, took $300 out of our grocery budget, and then jumped in the car. I was like, all right, man, I'm on the way. So we had $7,300, which I was able to sell another guitar and make some money and cover that $300 out of the grocery budget. So for that, anyway, all of that, I got that deal, which is still the best deal. Kelley Blue Book on our truck now is 120,000 miles. It's still like 11,500, 12 grand the last time I checked it. So it's like we bought that car 6 years ago and have driven it almost 90,000 miles. And anyway, all because I just said, how long have you had it? Using contextual information to realize it's not a sentimental thing. It is a cash thing. It's time sensitive. Anyway, good deal. So let me jump in. I'll answer a couple questions real quick. Mark Mesner asks, any opinion on Weber guitars? I haven't actually played Weber guitars. I've played a ton of Weber mandolins, which are, well, I guess that's 1B. Weber with 2 Bs? Might be a different company. Weber mandolins are astounding, amazing, top of the field. Yeah. And Jeff, have I ever used the Norlin era Stigma to get a better deal on a 70s Les Paul? Yes. I've done it to get better deals on a J50, a J45 Deluxe, a J35, a J25, I think it was. It was a weird kind of maroon colored, purpley candy colored, double X braced J40, J25. Yeah, pancake bodies. You see a pancake body, pick that thing apart. They're not that bad. They're just freaking heavy. And yeah, I mean, that's definitely one that works well. It's just pointing out when the ownership of the company was what. And that's great. Another good question here. Do you go into a deal with a set formula rule on the most you'll pay based on what you're going to need to sell it for? That's a good question. Let me answer this question 2 different ways. So if I'm going in buying a guitar that I personally want and I'm not that worried about reselling it, I'm still broken and I will never pay full asking price or even market value. So like my Waterloo, which I bought that one to flip, but my D41, I have a 1970 Martin D41 that was owned by an old friend and it bounced around through a bluegrass community and then I got it earlier this year. The guitar is probably $4,000. But I let the other guy set the number first, and he said $2,750, and I said, okay, how about $2,500? And so he said, deal. And so I paid him $2,500. And that's a guitar that I wasn't planning. So typically, I aim for 25 to 30%. I mean, it all depends. If you are buying things as a business, and that's where there is a gray area between a business and a hobby, in business, if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. So hang on to that. Like, because if it's a thing where you're buying and selling and you don't make money on it, then it's a charity, it's a hobby. Anyway, hey, Evan, I have your pickups over here. I swapped them out. I had to get some. I was almost ready to ship them yesterday, and then I realized that I had to do some pictures. So, Evan, I've got your pickups. I will mail them this afternoon. I'll text you the shipping. Anyway, thanks, buddy. I bought a 52 Telly reissue. Awesome. Actually, I traded Billy for it. Billy's on here, probably, and he's in some of the questions here in a minute. But I got it, and I swapped in the Migas Touch pickups. Good Lord. It sounds so good. It's crazy. I didn't expect it. They are really, really, really good. Telly pickups are not that expensive. They're $150. Maybe $175. But I would pay that easily, happily, readily. So, anyway. Reasonable offer on a new guitar? Good luck. New guitars are tricky, but there usually is margin. I have a video called How Guitar Shops Make Money that I deal with this a lot and kind of show how that's probably the hardest thing for guitar companies, guitar businesses, guitar shops. That's the hardest thing for them to make money reliably on. So anyway, you can talk to them, you can offer, you can ask. I mean, usually you just get a deal if you ask for it. Like, hey, what's the best you can do on this? Or, the other thing is, can you include? Can you throw in a case? Can you throw in, a capo? You're whittling down. Okay. David Weber. I don't know him. I haven't played his guitars. Good luck. Let me know how it goes. Send me some pictures and video if you dare. And that'd be fun to check out. So Gary says, I've got an amp, a Roland J120 old style, bought in 1999, $1,000. How much of a loss should I expect to get out of it? I don't think you would lose. They've come down, but that is still the standard for a lot of clean recording tone. And those are still super hot. I just missed one. How much did Elliot? Let me see. My friend Elliot just sold one. Okay. So he sold it for a deal to somebody for $600, which I think is crazy. I think that's way too low. In my mind, they're $800 or $900. So if you got $1,000 in it, but $1,000 in it, and you've owned it since what, 99? You said. So you've had it decades. And so if you just work out whatever loss it is, call that a rental fee. You would have paid that rental fee. Like, can I have this thing for 22 years, and can I, over those 22 years, I'll play it and use it. It stays with me 365 days a year. You'd be into that. So, Mark, new guitars are tightly priced right now. Most manufacturers are behind in production, and demand is still high. Haven't had much luck negotiating new guitars with new guitar negotiations. No. I don't think you will. I think every guitar company is building guitars as fast as they can. And I think for them, right now there is this kind of level of like, they don't have time to deal with people that are like, give me a deal. They're like, no, out of the way. Like, there is a line of people that will pay full price. So I think that's where you just have to kind of feel it. Alden, hey man. So, just traded a Fender Tim Armstrong Hellcat acoustic electric for a 2016 SG Special Faded. That's a good deal. Yeah, that's a cool deal. SG Special Faded. Right? Yeah. That's awesome. Cool. Good work. All right, let's go to another question. How long have you had it? So there are times where people... This is more aimed at when someone is hell-bent on getting more money out of a thing because of upgrades that they've done to it, or just mods or tweaks to it. The main thing that made me think about this is when you get like an Epiphone Les Paul that is, it's a standard, so it's a $350, $400 guitar. And then they want $650 because they put Seymour Duncan, zebras in it. And then they want $750 because they bought an SKB aftermarket case. And so for me, I've wanted to make a video on this. I haven't really figured out a way to talk about it in a way that seems that interesting. But the truth is, in my experience, just guitars aren't worth more. Guitars are not worth more with Seymour Duncan pickups unless they're like antiquities or they're like not even bare knuckles. Unless they are exceptionally expensive on their own and people will pay crazy money for them. A lot of the crazy PAFs and that kind of thing. But anyway, this is a tool that you just have to be like, okay. I'm not like, it's not your guitar plus all these things that add up to, like, that's just not how guitar values work used. It's still an Epiphone Les Paul. And it's still, like, even if I took that stuff out and I sold it and I got my money back from that, I then have to find the original stuff. Like, where do you have the old tuners? Do you have the old pickups? Like, that's the only way I'll pay more, and I'm still going to have to do a bunch of work. So you kind of frame it as like, you're making it a worse deal for me. So anyway. So Joshua says, off subject, you said you did the Dave Ramsey thing. Is it worth it? It is absolutely worth it. It has a lot. I mean, it is the reason that I get to make videos on the internet talking about guitars. So if you're not familiar with Dave Ramsey, basically he has 7 steps to financial freedom, and they are really helpful. The first one is put $1,000 in a savings account and don't touch it. Like, just cover some emergencies. But it's a small emergency fund, so your feet are going to be to the fire. The second one is get on a budget and get out of debt. And so in baby step 2, you are taking everything that you owe money on, cars, credit cards, boats, home equity line of credit, all these other things, and you start looking at the 15 different ways that you're giving people money away and you're paying interest on everything that you own. And you pay this thing smallest to largest, and you just snowball. When you're done with the smallest thing, you just add momentum. So by the end, without your budget changing, for example, for us, the last thing we paid off was our car. By the end, without changing our budget, because we weren't paying a credit card and medical bills and all this other dumb stuff. By the end, we were paying $1,100 on top of the $400 car note. And so it's like, bam, like we're just like running on it. So we got totally out of debt in 2017. 2017, we were totally out of debt. So after you do that, then you build up that $1,000 emergency fund. You do it to 3 to 6 months of expenses. If you're self-employed, like I have been my whole vocational career as an adult, we always lean towards 6 months. So you just save up and you're still living like you have a budget, you have a plan for your money, you get to 6 months. And then the intensity goes down once you get into 4, 5, and 6, which is put 15% into retirement, start saving money for your kids to go to college, and then pay off your house. So we're in 4, 5, and 6 right now, and it's really amazing. Like, we're actually putting money away for retirement, and we're saving money for our kids to go to college. And, that's one of the ways in which we were able to kind of finance the garage renovation. It also makes our monthly, how much money we have to live. Because it used to be like, I have to bring home, making up numbers, but I had to bring home at least $6,000, and I won't get any mean calls from credit card companies or the mortgage company. We never missed a mortgage payment, or we're never close, but I'm being dramatic. But anyway, Dave Ramsey, definitely worth it. Check it out. Their podcast, their YouTube channel is great. And it has just been a great thing for us. Getting away from credit cards has been awesome. No amount of points is worth how much dumb stuff I bought when I had a credit card. All for I'm like, I'm getting points on it. Like, okay, but I'm still spending $300 extra a month. Anyway, so Joe just bought a Yamaha FG300M made in 1982. I love it. Paid $380. Love the sound of the next straight. That's a killer guitar. That's great. You should be super excited. Hector says, just bought a $3,000 guitar, but $800 skills. What do you think about buying above your skill level? I think be careful what voices you allow to tell you what you should and shouldn't have. I think if it's the bigger trick is getting to where it's a small part of your world financially, or a thing where you're Not that you're throwing it away, but just be careful. Like, are you spending $3,000 on a guitar and still have a credit card and still have a car payment and still have, and you're not putting money into retirement, not saving for your kids to go to college. And if you don't have kids and you're not married. Anyway, I'm with you. I have a bunch of videos about that. There's one, it's the first Guitar Lies video. It's my Pink Paisley Telly. It's like the biggest lie we believe is I don't deserve this. And I talk about it more at a longer form. So go check that out. Evan, thoughts on how Floyd Rose values or devalue guitars? Sorry, lots of questions this time. No, that's fine. Great question. Floyd Roses, for the most part, lower the value of guitars unless it is super shreddy, original, should be shreddy guitars. Those are coming up. I've called that for years. Like when people ask me, what guitars are going to be worth a lot more next? I have said LTD, ESP, Kramer's, Hamer, all of those shreddy, locking trim guitars, they're all going to shoot up in value because the guys who played those and idolized those in high school are now getting around retirement age. Their kids are out of college and they're making more money than they've ever made and they have more free time. So they're looking for hobbies and they're looking to relive their glory days. So they will come back. But yeah, I still think overall, like my PV, it's over there. My PV Falcon with a proper Floyd, it's a Kaler. People aren't into it. I mean, it's $200. I got it for $200. Okay, I talked about this one. So it's not worth the upgraded pickups. It's not worth more with upgraded pickups. Sorry. That's a good line. It's true. This is a good one. This one has worked and closed some deals for me. When someone is a player and they are looking to sell a thing to get cash to upgrade to the next guitar, I start asking them, what's their dream guitar? How much more would you have to save after this guitar? Like if you sold this one to me today, and then you start seeing them doing math and they don't start at zero. They start at the number that you're giving them. And so it closes in their mind, like this is closed. They get to move on to the next one. So this is a sneaky trick. Get them to dream, get them to think about where their story is headed. And so where they're like, it's a Les Paul custom like Randy Rhoads. Okay, awesome. I'll buy your Epiphone for $600. And from there, you only have another, The other one, and Tom mentioned this, Tom Dill, who is in the, he's in the chat over here. Tom talked about like pairing things together. That's my favorite, which is when you have multiple guitars, you say like, hey, how much for a deal? And people are more generous when they start discounting more. Like they would never take $700 for that one and $800 for this one. But when you're like, hey, I'll do $14 for the two of them. I'm like, okay. And I don't know what arithmetic they're doing or how they're justifying it, but it works. Buying multiple guitars from the same person is a really good deal. So this is kind of that next thought, which is how close does this get you to your dream guitar? And that's where they start, they're not starting at zero. They're starting at the number you've given them and then what else they have to do. Okay. Let me turn this off. Okay. So here are the worst lines. I'm going to have to lean in close to see these. But I'll jump in and do a couple questions. Oh boy, we only have 12 minutes. I'll blast through these. Shredded Joe and the Squealers. That's a good name. What do you think of the Vibramate string spoilers for Bigsby's? I don't know. I know I'd rather take a guitar string or just a poke to the eye than have to do a post, a Bigsby with the posts, where you have to like curl the string around to get them to stay and then go under. Sheesh. Bought a 2019 PRS Silver Sky for $1,500 cash, plus a Vertex Boost $200 pedal. The Sky has one chip in the paint in the back of the body. Jonathan, good, well done. That's a great guitar, great price. That's awesome. Yeah, so $1,700. You've got like the hot guitar right now. Amazing quality. I mean, yeah, that's a winner. Good job. I like the boomer caps. Yeah, Red, hit the like button. That tells YouTube that this is worth talking about, seeing, watching, paying attention to. Anyway, let me jump in here. Okay, so these are some of the worst. These are some of the worst ones that's submitted. So these all came from Instagram. So these are some of the worst. So seller says that's what they're going for on reverb when you use reverb as the comparison. That's a bad idea for a bunch of reasons. Reverb takes 5% for processing, 2.5% for credit card processing, 2% usually for protection, and then you have boost that they're always trying to sell you on, and then if they pay through PayPal. So it's 11 or 12% that you're going to give away. But the thing also is that reverb is the highest things are ever going to sell for. Reverb is so expensive. So you're paying a lot of money to get things in a more convenient platform. So anyway, that's a good one. Oh, Jeff. Okay, that's good. Next time I own a Bigsby, I'll check it out. I've avoided Bigsby's because I just don't like... I had a 71 Gretsch 6117 that had a Bigsby. That's the only guitar I've owned with a Bigsby in the last while. And it was good, but it just made me want to punch myself in the neck every time I tried to restring it. So maybe that would save me and make me like these guitars. Oh, man. Here's one. My wife said I can only spend this much. We're like, well, why'd you come? Like, what'd you think? And, like, there are layers to this. Like, you're going to let your wife take the rap for you? Like, just be a man here. No, I haven't. The Les Paul Trem 2 systems, I haven't. But yeah, this is a good, this is just a bad line. Like, just swat this one away. Don't use it if that's, I don't know. It supports many things that are not helpful for the world or people or transactions. Yeah, that's the worst. The worst. Taking anything personally. That's true. I think, is that... Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. Yes. So, okay, it's the Duesenberg trims. Okay. And then the other one over here is taking things personally. You have to be unoffendable as a seller. And as a buyer, you have to be aware. If you're buying something from someone that like has just lost a loved one, you got to be really gentle in that situation. So don't feel predatory. Anyway, there's a lot to it. All right, I'm gonna blast through some of these. Oh, Chesapeake Repair says, I'd pay more if the Tolex was redone. You're like, me too, dummy. I would sell it for more if the Tolex was done. Like, that's just a lazy... Come on. What's the lowest you can go? Yeah, when you just get a message like, what's your bottom dollar? Not helpful. You can get that information without saying it that way. You can say, like, how much would it cost to buy this today? That question is much more likely to get a response to. All right, that's the end of those. We did it. Let me turn this off. Transition. Boom. Clean video. Yeah, Jeff. Never told my wife about a new guitar. Then it showed up with it. Divorced. Yeesh. What's deluxe about a Gibson 70s J50 Deluxe? I don't know. I think they had good success with the phrase deluxe on Les Pauls in the late 60s, early 70s. On the binding, probably. I mean, a J50 is normally bound, but is there fingerboard binding on it? I don't think so. Yeah, I think they just made the deluxe designation to get more dollars out of our pockets. The other thing is it's double X braced. Maybe that's deluxe, double X. Oh my gosh. I feel like I just had an Illuminati moment. Yeah. But Jeff, did you keep the guitar? Yeah. Do you think guitars in general are high priced these days, especially used guitars? That's a good question. Do I think the guitars are overpriced? Is that how you phrase it? Are high priced these days, especially used guitars? Are used guitars more expensive now? I've noticed recently that I've been in the guitar buying and selling world long enough that my numbers are having to change. Like my gut reaction numbers. I'm realizing like, oh man, like, yeah, 7 years ago, I could have got it. Like the big ones for me are like Mexican Telecasters and Mexican Strats. To me, I'm like, oh, that's, $300, $350. But now like they're $500. They've all gone up in price. What other used guitars? Martin D18s have gone up a lot in price. I used to buy them pretty regularly for like $1,300 or $1,400, and now you can't really find them below $2,000. Epiphone Les Pauls, to me, $600 is too much, but that seems like a fairly normal price for them now. I think that's probably true. What's interesting, one of the most interesting things to me is when you look at... So I did this when I bought Raymond's D28 from 1967. Raymond paid $400. Paid $400 for this guitar in 1967. If you adjust that up for inflation, it's $3,800. And so how much does a D28 cost now? A D28 now is $2,899. So it is $1,000 cheaper to buy a D28 now than it was dollar for dollar to the 1960s. Now, I understand that one's Brazilian, but dollars for dollars. Like, the other one is 335s are cheaper now than they were in the late 60s. I think in the late 60s they were for $500, $600. But anyway, all of that to say, I think more people are playing guitar than ever before. More people are trying to figure out what guitars are right for them. There's more demand for guitars and the supply of used guitars. There are plenty out there, but it's still, it's an interesting economic moment right now. And I'm curious to see in the next couple of years how it's going to go. I don't like how people are saying, like, there's going to be a big bubble because there's going to be all these people that give up. I think people have better tools now, more time now to learn how to play guitar, and I think that a big chunk are going to stay with us in the guitar world after this. Matt says, I'm looking at a Blues Junior 4 amp with a Cannabis Rex speaker for half off. Seems brand new, supposedly less than an hour of play on it. You think it's a good deal? I'm a big fan. Well, Matt, I'm a big fan of you, buddy. And that's a great deal. Cannabis Rex is a fun speaker. It's like boomy and pushy and loud and it's really good. There's a light box right here. You can kind of see it. You can definitely see it. But yeah, I think that's a good speaker. Is it just one of the black ones? I mean, when you say half price, what number do you mean half price? $350? $300? Any Blues Junior under $400, you're doing pretty good. That's one that benefits from the speaker swap. I won't say it's worth more because of the speaker swap, but it will sell faster. That's the thought I should have had 30 minutes ago when I answered that question. Okay. People will rarely pay more for Seymour Duncans or upgraded pickups, parts, all that stuff, but they will buy them faster with those things. So if you're just saying like, hey, whatever that cost you, that's how much you're costing. Think about like, that's like reverb bumps in real life. Like those things. Seymour Duncan on a humbucker will get it sold faster. $350, limited blue and purple. That's why. Yeah, the blue and purple. Oh man, is this the like teal and that's awesome. $350. Buy that right now. If you don't like it, I'll buy it. That is cool. Yeah. If it's that like looks like 90s sneakers, looks like RJ Ronquillo's his vibe. That's an awesome deal. Yeah, anything under $400, you're doing pretty well. All right, fam. It is time to go. This has been a really fun week. Updates, announcements. So the garage is done. The Air conditioning is going in tomorrow. It's not in the link. It's not in the description of this video, but there is a in the other videos for the renovation. If you want to donate money to offset the cost of that, there are people who've done it. It's been really interesting and amazing that people have been giving money to the renovation for the studio. You can do that. You can also do super chats here if you want. That's a good way to support the channel. Also, become a patron. Patrons get live videos with me that don't exist anywhere else. Like earlier this week, we did a hang while I was swapping out pickups. And I'm starting to do more for patrons because you guys make my life great. And it's really cool and helpful to have your support so that I get to just do fun guitar things and bring you guys along. So anyway, this is fun. Questions. Oh, the kid won't get back to you. Yeah, it's because his parents bought it and he just needs money. Anyway, go to jeremytheguitarhunter.com, buy t-shirts. There are also guitars. I sold a bunch of guitars, but there's still some up for sale. So anyway, have fun. This is always fun hanging out. You guys are the best. Go fill the world with music and friendship. I'll see you later. I thought this would be smooth. No, it's not working. Bye, everybody. I'll see ya.